Well, good morning, everybody. If I had believed Facebook, we would have just canceled church. It looked like all you were going to be out of town. It was crazy. Well, welcome to the last Sunday of 2019. I'm glad you are here. And even if you're not into making New Year's resolutions, I think this period between Christmas and New Year's gives every one of us an opportunity to reflect on the year that's coming to a close, to think about the stuff that happened to us over the last year, the choices we've made, and where our life is headed. According to one survey, as we were at this point in 2018 making resolutions for this year we're just ending, the top resolutions were, I will eat healthier, I will exercise more, and I will save more money in 2019. The resolutions that are most popular now for 2020 are, wait for it, I will eat healthier, I'll exercise more, and I'll save more money. Our intentions are good, really, when we think about this at this time of year. We make these decisions in hopes that it will make us a better person. It will improve our life. It'll add value to what we do. We do that, and then somewhere in mid-January, we quit the health club, we stop the resolutions, and we realize all we've really done is add another layer of complexity to a life that was already way too busy and overwhelming. On these two Sundays that bridge this new year for us, I want us to consider taking a completely different approach to 2020. I would love for us to at least consider, that the best way to improve our next year is not by adding something to our lives, but by quitting. So here's the question for this morning. How do you think your life would change if you made the commitment for 2020, this commitment, I quit hurrying? Anybody feel rushed? Anybody felt pressed somewhere in the last couple of weeks? I feel like the holidays, in some sense for me, always make me feel like I'm living my life in fast forward. There's just so much to do and so many places to be. But it's not just the holidays that cause us to feel that way. Think about this. What do we normally say when people look at us on a Sunday morning and go, hey, how are you? If it's not just the usual, I'm fine, I'm good, we'll tag a little phrase onto the end of it. Watch for this week in your conversations with people. They'll say, I'm good, I'm just busy. It's so easy to fall in that trap. College students are busy. Young parents are busy. Empty nesters living on golf courses are busy. CEOs are busy. And so are baristas and part-time nannies. We are all busy. Now, granted, there is a healthy kind of busy to life. It's not all bad. There's a life where things are full of tasks and accomplishments that really do matter. Our lives are not wasted on empty or trivial pursuits. By that definition, Jesus himself was busy. The problem is not when we have a lot to do, it's when we have too much to do. And the only way we can see forward to getting it done is to hurry. And that kind of busyness leaves us reeling. So a lot of stuff that I read through over the last couple of weeks thinking about this. One was referred back to a 1967 Senate subcommittee who was listening to projections by futurists. This is pretty funny. They said their prediction was that by 1985, the average American would only work 22 hours a week. And we would only work 27 weeks out of the year. Our problem as a nation in 1985 would be too much leisure time on our hands and not knowing what to do with it. So how's that going for you? Anybody there? You have that life? You have that schedule? Because if you do, I want to figure out how you got there. In the 52 years since that Senate subcommittee, the average American is not only burning the candle at both ends, we've cut it in half and created new ends, and we're burning it in 4 different places. The average American now works 3 hours a week more than people did in 1979. And what may be worse is we sleep 90 minutes less a day. Think about that. In 1879, the light bulb was invented, right? Prior to the light bulb, how many hours of sleep do you think people got per night? 11. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you slept 11 hours a day? Or just one day, right? I mean, it would dramatically change things. Our lives are not getting more filled with the right things. Our lives are just getting busy, and we're hurrying through life, and we're cutting things short that really do matter. The average American right now spends twice as much time per day dealing with email than they do playing with their children. Now, if any of this describes your life, you may have what psychologists have termed hurry sickness, and it's literally classified as a disease. It's a codable billing disease for psychologists when they see you. It's defined as this: it's a malaise where a person feels chronically short of time and so tends to perform every task faster even when there's no real need to rush. And they get flustered when they encounter any kind of a delay. Any of that hit home for you? Have you caught this disease? Are you hurry sick? Here's what I want us to think about in this time together. What if hurry is actually one of the greatest barriers to our life in Christ? Because I think most of us believe that hurry is a good thing, or at least a benign thing. It's how we get more stuff done. We get stuff done faster. We make our way from point A to point B a little quicker. But what if that frenetic pace, that never stopping, that always multitasking in our lives is what's actually hurting our lives? Is it possible that hurry is not just damaging our relationship with God, but it's damaging our marriages, our families, our work, our sense of self, our sense of joy, and our sense of peace? Now, there are, with any disease, there are some clear signs that you might have contracted it. So there are tons of lists out there about hurry sickness, and I just want to hit a couple of those this morning. See if you find yourself in any of these. One of the first symptoms is irritability. We get mad or frustrated, or we just get annoyed way too easily. And the saddest part of that is that irritability is usually reserved for the people who are closest to us in life. Hypersensitivity is another symptom. It's when we lose our ability to roll with the punches in life. Minor comments, simple changes in the plan have a disproportionate effect on our emotional and relational well-being. Restlessness. Anybody restless? Checking your email right now while I'm teaching. Are you restless? When we finally do slow down, what we find is we can't slow down. We can't focus our mind. We go to bed early. We toss and turn all night with anxiety. We simultaneously watch TV, check email, fold clothes, and shout at Alexa to add more stuff to our to-do list. So I tried to squeeze this in. I couldn't. I'm just going to say it anyway. Our attention span has decreased dramatically since 2007. 2007, by historians, has been marked as the beginning of the digital age. In 2007, the average American's attention span to any given topic was 12 seconds. How pathetic is that? Recently measured, it's now 8 seconds. If you're thinking that's not a problem, let me just point out that the attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds. We are losing to goldfish. Not a great situation. Another symptom would be emotional numbness. We lose the capacity to enter into another person's pain or joy or sorrow. And at the same time, we become disconnected from our own. Empathy becomes a rare feeling for us. We may have hurry sickness if we discover in our life that there's no time for self-care. If you're anything like me, when my schedule gets squeezed and I feel pushed to hurry, the first things that go are the things that are truly life-giving. Tend to cut out time with family and friends. I had a friend text me this past year and go, "Hey, can you grab lunch?" I went, "No, I'm too busy." And the next time I saw him, I said, "You know what? I'm never going to do that again." Whatever it was that I was doing that day won't matter to me 10 years from now. I'm going to take the time and have lunch with a friend. We tend to squeeze out time alone with God to read the Bible and pray. We tend to squeeze the worship time on Sunday morning, arriving a little late, leaving a little early, checking our phones all through the service with nothing that has to do with the service. We lose time for an unhurried meal. And it's a little more than ironic that the first things we cut out of our schedules when we feel hurried are the very things that will provide us rest and strength and restoration for our worn-out bodies. We engage in escapist behaviors when we're hurry sick. When we're too tired to do what's good for us, we turn to our distraction of choice: overeating, overdrinking, binge-watching Netflix, browsing social media, surfing the web. And every one of us has our own preferred cultural narcotic to shield us from pain, and that's okay. Narcotics are good on a short-term basis, but when we abuse them, they eat us alive. Last characteristic I'll talk about is isolation. Even on those rare times when we actually do slow down, we find it hard to engage in conversation with our friends or with God. And instead of filling the emptiness of our soul, we reflexively in that moment run back to the familiar groove of busyness and digital distraction. Hurry sickness has a dramatic impact on us. One author termed it pervasive social violence, and that's a good term. Hurry kills relationships. Love takes time. Hurry doesn't have the time. Hurry kills joy, gratitude, appreciation. People in a rush don't have time to engage in the goodness of any given moment. They're on to the next and the next and the next thing. Hurry kills wisdom. Wisdom is only born in the quiet, in the slow. Wisdom doesn't scream at us. She waits for that inner voice to come to the surface of our stirred up mind. And if we're not careful, hurry will literally kill us. It's been linked to heart disease, chronic depression, and a host of other diseases. So how do we change? Jesus made an invitation to us 2,000 years ago that still stands today. In Matthew chapter 11, Jesus said, "Come to me, all of you who are weary, and anybody who's carrying a heavy burden, and I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I'm humble and I'm gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your soul. For my yoke, it's easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light." Typically, a yoke was used in Jesus' day with animals to get tasks done. I don't know, many of you didn't grow up on a farm, didn't grow up in a day where we used animals to get work done. My dad grew up in the hills of eastern Kentucky. They actually used a pair of mules with a yoke to pull stumps out of the ground and clear 40 acres of forest to make a farm. Not a life I envy. Some of the ones you'll see in pictures, if you search for a yoke on Wikipedia, are a block of wood with a branch that has been bowed to fit underneath it, and that will sit between two oxen, and that branch will go under and yoke them together. This is a more modern one. All over America, over the 300-400 years ago. This is the yoke. This would attach to a farm implement or a wagon and enable the animals to shoulder the load. There was a single tree attached to this that would go over the horse or the oxen on either end, and it would put them together in the task. The key with a yoke was they had to work together. If one of the animals got ahead of the other, it would pinch the neck and cause pain on both of them. They had to learn how to walk at the same pace to shoulder the load. You see where Jesus was going with this? Jesus said, take my yoke. Put it on you. It was more than just a physical piece of illustration for Jesus. In his day, it was a common idiom for rabbis. It was a way of teaching the law. What they taught was considered their yoke that they would walk with you in implementing. To put on a rabbi's yoke meant more than just adopting their belief system. The yoke taught them how to shoulder the weight of life, every single aspect of life, all of the joys and all of the pressures. A rabbi's yoke taught you how to live. And so when Jesus says to us, take my yoke upon you, he doesn't simply invite us to accept a set of ideas and adopt them into our life. That's what we call theology. It doesn't just refer to a set of do's and don'ts for life, which is what we would call ethics. Those are included, but a life with Jesus is so much more. He calls us to a way of life that's based on how he lived. Following Jesus goes down to the rhythms and the routines of life. What made Jesus unique was not that he had a yoke. Every rabbi had one. What made Jesus unique was his offer to share a yoke with him that was easy and life-giving. Here's the thing, as you look at Jesus' life as recorded in Scripture, Jesus never hurried. Look through the Gospels. It's remarkable. Jesus was busy. He was intentional. There were times in his ministry that were stressful. It wasn't like Jesus sat around eating meals and talking with people 24/7, like there was nothing for him to do in the first century. There were demands on his life, but he never hurried. If you look at his life, Jesus, in fact, went beyond just not hurrying. He set up rhythms and practices in his life that helped him fight the urge to hurry. Even if he'd had a late night, he would get up early the next morning, leave his disciples, go off to a quiet place to pray. Sometimes Jesus would wait when others were pressing him to hurry up, to rush. He had the courage to say no, even to some urgent requests that were made of him. That's Jesus' yoke. That's his rhythm of life. And if we're to follow him, we have to walk in step with him, or we'll feel the pinch of not doing so. So, with the time we have left this morning, I want to just offer a few practical suggestions, some things we can do to help combat hurry sickness in our life. And these will work for you. If you've just started following Jesus, or you've been following Jesus a long time, they'll actually work for you even if you're not sure you want to follow Jesus. These are very practical, simple things that any one of us can try so we can begin to rid ourselves of hurry. I'd say the first thing would be to find one way every day to practice slowing. One of the best ways to combat hurry is to simply slow down. Choose to walk slower. Choose to talk slower. Choose to just be present and listen to the person who's talking to you after the service this morning. Find a way to be slow to anger, to be slow to judge, to be slow to speak. Instead of reacting immediately to someone or something in your life, put yourself on pause for a few minutes. See how it changes your response. Actually, I would also encourage you just to help get into this practice, set an alarm on your smartphone and just try for a week. Every time, the same time, every day, take 10 minutes to slow down. Practice it. Turn off your email. Put your phone and your tablet on airplane mode. Stop multitasking and just be. Just sit. Intentionally slow your breathing down. And do nothing. And if you have to find some way to justify this to people who see your calendar, just write it in as a mini vacation. 10 minutes a day. I had to practice slowing this week on Christmas morning. It was more than a little ironic to me that on Christmas morning I felt the pressure of the week ahead, right? I mean, we'd spent 8 hours here on Tuesday with all 3 services and everything going on around that. We had Christmas Day. We had some friends coming on later in the day. And in the middle of all that, I had a message to get ready for this morning. So I was feeling the pressure of this on Christmas morning. I was up early. I was reading. I was studying. And at one point I thought to myself, if I just buckled down and find a quiet place in the house, I could probably pound this message out today and be done. And in the middle of writing a message on hurry, I stopped. And I spent a few minutes trying to understand why I felt hurried. I slowed down. And in the end, I realized there was nothing behind that. And so I folded up everything, put my briefcase upstairs in the bedroom where I wouldn't see it and be tempted, and engaged fully in the day ahead of us. And it was so much better than it would have been. In fact, I think this is so much better than it would have been. Find a way to practice slowing. Second, look for opportunities to wait. Anybody here hate waiting? I can't stand it. I'm one of those people who plays the game in my mind of which line at the grocery store is shortest. Which lane of cars is going to get through the toll booth the fastest. Choose to wait. Another study I read this week said the average American, if they have to wait more than 30 seconds for something to heat up in the microwave, will find another task to do while they wait. How sick is that? We can't be still for 30 seconds. I thought about just pausing in the message for 30 seconds right here and making you just think I'd lost my place or something. I think some of you would have certifiably gone crazy in that 30 seconds. We get bored when we wait 30 seconds for food to heat up. How about the next time? How about the next time you just choose to be still for 30 seconds? Just see if there's something God wants to whisper to you, bring to mind to you. Another way to choose waiting is to stop fighting your way through crowds. If you're going to a movie, if you're checking out at the grocery store, if you're flying on a plane, choose to wait. Be that person who stays seated until almost everybody's out of the plane and let them go ahead of you, especially the ones who seem frantic and hurried. And study how attractive that is to be the one who's in a hurry at the back of a plane. Next time you're at the grocery store waiting to check out, put your phone away. Be fully aware of what's going on around you instead of checking Facebook or email. Pay attention to those people. Choose the longer line. Choose the same line at the grocery store every time, not because of the length of the line, but because of the person who's checking you out. Build a relationship with that person. They have a life beyond Jewel, I've found. Let somebody in front of you in line. If you really want to show grace and practice waiting this week, let someone who has more than 10 items go ahead of you in the express line. And be cheerful about it. If we choose to wait, if we can just be still, we may discover some of the good things that God has in store for us in this life that we would have never known. Last thing. If you really want to slow down, if you want to quit hurrying, I would encourage you to schedule time alone with God. And I'm fully aware that what I'm about to say, some of you will feel like, hey, you just don't understand. My work is complicated. My family is complicated. I'm not sure I can do any of this. I get that. Doesn't change my belief that every one of us as a Christ follower needs time alone with God. If we follow Jesus' rhythm, we will schedule a few minutes every day to be alone with God. We would schedule a full day every week to be with God and be with our family. It's what Jesus called a Sabbath. And I think if we really wanted to follow Jesus in this rhythm of life, every one of us would need at least one day a year that we spend in silence and solitude. Because it's only in these quiet moments that we really begin to understand what's churning deep in our soul. Before you completely check out on this possibility, just know you can ease into this and see the difference that it makes. I would encourage you this week, schedule 3 15-minute blocks of time just to be with God. Put it on your calendar. At 15 minutes, maybe in the morning. You may be the first one awake in your house. It may be on your train ride to work. Put in your earbuds, put on some calming instrumental music, and spend 15 minutes with God on the train. It may be over your lunch. It may be before you go to bed at night. Find the time to do this and write it in your calendar. Do it with no noise around you if possible, no tech in front of you unless you read your Bible like I do on your tablet, and then put your tablet or phone into airplane mode. Nobody can reach you, right? And then just watch. Watch what happens when you spend this time with God. That time will dramatically change your approach to the challenges and the opportunities that come in your day. You can choose how to begin. Some of you may want to just dive right in and schedule a full day of solitude. That's fantastic. Some of you will do it a few minutes at a time. You can choose how you start to do this. I don't think we get to choose if. Jesus structured times of prayer and fasting and solitude into his life. He worked hard and he balanced that with slow starts to his day, with slow meals with family and with friends, even when crowds of people were waiting for him. He took time to get his heart and his head in the right place so that he could be fully present in whatever came that day. That's his yoke, and that's his invitation to us. So how about it? You willing to take one step this week to eliminate hurry from your life, to intentionally slow the pace of your life? Making real and lasting changes can be difficult. It can be tough. Everything inside of us and everything around us, it seems, is working against change. It's working against us slowing down. Our compulsion to produce and not waste time invades the space that God gave us to rest and connect deeply. The new habits we want to form in the next year, letting go of some old things, picking up some new, begin with simple, consistent steps. So will you take one of these ideas and take a first step this week? What I've found in my life and what I've found in my walk with Jesus is that when I slow down, when I intentionally subtract things from my life, it's transformative. Instead of making my life feel empty or less efficient, what happens is when I pull things out of my life, it leaves space for the good things in my life to grow richer, deeper, fuller than I could have ever imagined. But to live that life, we have to learn to walk at Jesus' slow, unhurried pace. So let me extend that invitation to you one more time that Jesus said. Let's do it this time in a paraphrase, the Message, a paraphrase of the New Testament, so we can hear it with a fresh read. Close your eyes, if you would, while I read this, and just hear Jesus' invitation to you, wherever you are this morning. He says, are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. And I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me, Jesus said. Work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn how to live freely and lightly.